Hey, 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 hey. Can you see and hear me okay? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Yeah, yes. Got my recliner fixed. I'm sitting in my recliner. It feels good on my ass. Hey, princess. Hey, Vitluhu, how are you? How goes it? Can you see me okay? Ooh, put that bright thing up there. You can really see me. Can you hear me? Trying to get it just right. Ho, 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 ho. Ho, 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 ho. Cold. You're cold? Yeah, I know. I don't think I can make this any broader over here. I do this. What does that look like? Is that better? That shows my triple chin. Nina, you got your hot flash kit. You're gonna need it, sister. Figures you guys would like that. I was trying to be romantic and keep it nice and cozy and kind of personable. Where's my author? Perfect now, of course. Now you can see all my crinkles. My crinkles. I'm gonna cut my hair off next week. Going back short. I've done this mess. I'm over it. I'm over it. Okay. I got some extra people on here, but I don't know where they at. I mean, where they talking? Hi, Jackie, somebody. Tell Jackie she needs to bring her hot flash kit. She gonna like tonight's. Love you, princess. My new curtains will be in next week. I have twinkle lights up, and I have my new mirror up. So as I figure out where the screw's gonna go in at. And the show on the road. Look, get all these boxes. I look like I have an Amazon starter kit in here. Cannot chat. Well, damn. That sucks. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Well, give it another minute. I don't know why I can't chat. I hate that. I hate it when it does that. It drives me nuts. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started now because it's 8:05. Okay. Oh, shit. I means I'm hugemus. Hi. Okay, so this is the cover. It's Along for the Ride. I think it's book. I don't remember now, but it's an average. He does a series called Mr. and Mrs. Average Joe, and yeah, I agree. And they are about. See, this is where I had questions for him. I don't know because I haven't read the first few, so I don't know how he's calling it. Open relationships or swingers, or I don't know how he's calling it. So, but anyways, in the old days it would have been called swingers. Some people now call it open relationship. This is two couples that kind of interswap back and forth. So let's just put really good friends. So we're gonna go right this way. I got my glasses over here if I can't read after a while, so y'all bear with me. Ooh, trying to get this where I don't have to hold it the whole time. Okay, there we go. Shortly after John's 50th birthday. Oh, yeah, it's about people our age too, which is super cool. Shortly after John's 50th birthday, the four of us marked the first anniversary. I don't know either. I mean, I've had that problem before. Sometimes you got to make a whole an account. I don't have any answers. I don't know. There's different people. Some people can get right on, some people can't. I don't know. So, all right. Shortly after John's 50th birthday, the four of us marked the first anniversary of our meeting with a fun weekend getaway to Door County, Wisconsin. By the way, I'm not reading this in a Wisconsin accent. I have friends from Minnesota, and I have friends from Canada. So I know what it should sound like. I just can't do it. I'm a Georgia girl, so the scenic peninsula on the western shore of Lake Michigan was a popular destination and only about 3 hours north of us. The calendar had just turned to May, a month or so before the peak summer tourist season. We booked a 2-bedroom suite with a hot tub at a spa resort on the lake shore. This was also a perfect place for us to practice the new spiritual lessons we'd recently learned. Spring and its natural beauty were at their peak, and we took notice. This area is one of the country's largest cherry producers, and the blossoms were in full bloom. Oh, my favorite. I love cherry blossoms. Driving through, we pulled over several times to get up close and walk through the flowering orchards. And since you're not on here, I'm going to go with the way I pronounce these names. I'm not sure if you do or not. Micah happily told us it reminded her of Japan and had us pose for a lot of great photos. John seemed pleasantly surprised at the number of vineyards, since Wisconsin is known more for its breweries. Friday night, we found a little church festival with carnival rides that Elaine insisted we stop to enjoy. She and Micah rode the tilt-a-whirl and such, while John and I visited the beer tent and watched senior citizens play bingo. We later ended up buying a few cards and broke even when Elaine won $50. We spent a wonderful Saturday afternoon touring lighthouses, visiting art galleries, and sampling some good local wines. Oh, that sounds like my kind of day. A definite highlight was when we stopped in a state park and hiked a short distance to a high point on a cliff. Overlooking the Lake Michigan, we all sat silently enjoying it in our own way. Micah and Elaine went right into meditation mode, while John sat and just stared out over the water. Closing my eyes, I decided to listen. I love music and quickly picked up on the natural rhythm of the surroundings. I do this. The water faintly crashing on the rocks joined the wind through the pines while the sounds of different birds completed nature's song. It was about 20 minutes before any of us spoke, and then only when another group of hikers approached. Feeling refreshed afterward, we returned to the resort where we pampered ourselves in the spa before a nice candlelit dinner. This trip turned into a very welcome romantic getaway. Saturday night. All right, get your fans out, girls. Oh, there he is. We'll just read it through. We all right. We good either way. We'll just read through it. But thank you. They don't really care about the Halloween part anyway. They got their hot flash kits. That's what they're waiting on. So, girls, get your fans ready. Get your toys ready. Get your wine ready, because I know you got that too. I got my tea. Elaine came up with an interesting idea for things to keep us busy that summer. Relaxing naked in the hot tub. We'd had a fun, playful evening, and we're all in the mood. What do you think of this? She asked. Each one of us picks something to do. We all go along for the ride, no matter what it is. Don't we already do that? Micah responded. Well, yeah, but I mean something that the rest of us probably wouldn't do otherwise. We looked at each other for a minute, giving it some thought. Micah spoke first. I've always wanted to go to a Pride Fest, the LGBT festival in Milwaukee. I could never get my businessman husband to go, though, she said, giving John a little smirk. We always went to the parades in San Francisco. I don't know what the big deal is. What do you guys think? Elaine, would you go? How about you, Joe? She asked. I nodded while Elaine answered for both of us. Definitely, that sounds like fun. Okay, then, Micah said. That's what I'd like for all of us to do. I'd like to be part of a big organized drum circle, I said. Elaine sighed and rolled her eyes. You really are an old hippie, aren't you? Micah asked me with a little laugh. Guilty, but it's really much like meditating if you do it right, I told her. Joe, it hurts my hands, Elaine added. I don't think I can do it. You don't have to hit a drum. You could play a shaker or a cowbell. I'd collected all sorts of drums and percussion toys and had something we could all play. These days, they were mostly used by our grandchildren to make joyful noise. Micah stared at John for a second before turning to me. I'm in. Can I play one of those big African drums? A djembe? Is that what they're called? She asked with a smile. Sure, whatever you want. How about it, John? Bang a drum with us? I asked him. Why not? He replied. But I might join Elaine and shake something instead. He looked at her and smiled, a subtle hint at how the evening would go. Okay, we have Pride Fest and Joe's Hippie Drum Circle. Elaine, this was your thing. What do you got, honey? Micah asked her. No way! Elaine fired back. Those are too easy. I'm going to come up with something really good. I just don't know what it is yet. I'm with Elaine on this one too, John told us. Give us some time. We'll come up with something way better than those. Elaine smiled and moved closer to him. Hey, this isn't a team thing. I thought we each had to think of something, Micah teased. I don't know. I think we make a pretty good team, Elaine said, now snuggling right up against John in the tub. Their eyes met before he leaned in for a kiss, which quickly turned deep and passionate. So, teams it is, I guess, Micah said, giving me a sexy look. By then, it just felt natural to share ourselves that way. She slid over in the tub and sat right in front of me. I reached around to feel her breast, which she welcomed by turning for a kiss. She rubbed her little ass against me, knowing it would make me hard. I moved my hand down to feel her clit, squeezing it between my fingers under the water. Come on, Joe, she whispered to me. Let's get out of here. She stood up, took my hand, and I stepped out right behind her. We tailed off briefly while our spouses were still kissing and feeling each other in the tub. We didn't go far, though. Micah found the nearest piece of furniture, in this case, a flowery love seat, and pulled me down with her. Elaine got out of the hot tub, sat on the side, and was soon enjoying the pleasures of John's tongue. She moaned as he expertly teased and licked her clit. He tried, but she wouldn't let him finish her. Not like that. Elaine made him stand and just as quickly had him on the verge of a climax from her own oral skills. Micah made it obvious she was ready to go right away on the love seat. With me on top, she reached for my cock and guided it into her hot, waiting pussy. Starting slowly, I pushed deeper with each thrust until Micah pulled me into a wet kiss and wrapped her legs around me. We tried keeping it slow, but our lust quickly took over and we fucked urgently until climaxing nearly together. Oh, yes! Yes! She cried out, her little body tightened, squeezing my cock harder. I lasted just a few seconds longer. Oh, fuck now, I grunted, while Micah continued moaning in delight. Her grip intensified with both her legs and inner muscles tightening around me, each of us lost in the joys of a hot mutual orgasm. We stayed together like this for a while, neither of us wanting or willing to let go. It was really nice. Hey, Jackie! Jackie's in the house. The party can get started. See there, y'all? Go get it. Go get it, girls. John was lying on his back, playing with Elaine's nipples as she fucked him from above. Her moans filled the room before she came down for a hot kiss, the type which often sent her over the edge. John held her ass, pulling her to him as they moaned into each other's mouths. Still kissing, they rolled over on the wet floor outside the tub, nearly falling back in. Elaine came first, quite joyfully, before urging a nice climax from John a couple of minutes later. That was this was one of the rare nights when things hadn't begun with Micah and Elaine playing a little, but no one was disappointed. The next day we had to return home, but we weren't in a hurry. We were in no hurry. It was a beautiful Sunday morning, and we had breakfast outside on a terrace overlooking the lake. A few feet away, an artist worked on a painting. The easel angled so we couldn't quite see it. Micah, always a lover of art and artists, got up and walked over to get a look. She approached the older gentleman with her big, infectious smile, complimenting his work immediately. They quickly struck up a conversation as she pointed things out on his canvas. Micah looked back at Elaine, and we all went over to check it out. It was a painting of the lakeshore and surrounding landscape, as I suspected, and quite good. The detail, especially of a boat in the water, was quite impressive. John stared at it for a minute, deep in thought. That's it, he said, all of us suddenly turning to look at him. What? Micah asked. I know what I'd like the four of us to do. Right there, the boat, he said, pointing to the canvas. Sailing. I want to take all of us sailing. He was really excited about this. It's been It's been a long time, Micah told him. We could tell she liked this idea too. Yeah, too long. Joe, Elaine, what do you think? Let me take you out on the lake. This lake? Lake Michigan? Elaine asked. She was more than a little apprehensive. Yeah, not here. We could go out from Milwaukee. Will we be able to see the shore the whole time? John paused before answering. Probably, he said with a laugh. Trust me, Elaine. I know what I'm doing. I grew up on San Francisco Bay. Elaine looked at Micah for assurance. Elaine looked to Micah for assurance. He really did, she said, nodding. His family had a boat at the marina forever, and we used to sail a lot. It seems like a long time ago. I don't think we've been out for like 10 years. I have a client with a nice boat and a standing offer to use it, John told us. I'd like to do this soon. His confident attitude easily sold us. So Elaine and I agreed to go. It was definitely a more adventurous outing than Micah or I had proposed. Elaine was now even more determined to come up with something spectacular, and she still had plenty of time. In the summer, Milwaukee is a city of festivals with a different one happening almost weekly. Most celebrate the various ethnic groups that settled here, and there's one for just about everyone. Of course, it was still Beer City and had a drinking culture unlike anywhere else. Milwaukee could and would throw a party for anything. What made our city the ideal setting for these large gatherings was the lakefront park we often took for granted. For decades, the home of a huge summer music festival, the 75-acre grounds had a dozen permanent stages and could easily handle crowds of 100,000 or more. Side note here, when I was 17, which is way too many years ago, um, we were going to go see my friends in Minnesota, our family friends in Minnesota, and we were taking kind of a long way up there and a long way back, just kind of seeing what we could see along the way. Because from Georgia to Minnesota, it was 17 hours. And so we were taking our time and just, we had my grandparents and all that. And we stopped over in Milwaukee over on the lake, I think probably at this park or a park along the lake there. And we had two cars and I was driving one and I crashed. I laid a blanket out on the grass there and everybody else was doing whatever they were doing. And I just crashed. I slept for like 2 hours before we left. It felt so good. Yeah, beautiful area. Um, I could remember exactly when the annual Pride. I couldn't remember exactly when the annual Pride Fest started, but it was now the one that kicked off the festival season in early June. Elaine and I had never considered going to this one for no other reason than we didn't go to the others. Growing up here, there was no way we could have imagined something like this, reminding us how far we'd come as a city and society in general. Now it was all about our beautiful Japanese friend being able to celebrate her bisexuality. Micah's enthusiasm was, it's probably Mika if she's Japan, right? So I'm gonna change it to Mika's. Mika's, and you can correct me because I don't even know. I tried looking it up, but I couldn't get it. I couldn't get a straight answer. Mika's enthusiasm was contagious, and Elaine was excited about going too. She didn't seem to be concerned about what people would think and was proud to be going with Mika. Okay. Elaine also realized this would be a night they could openly enjoy their special relationship. The two women spent much of their day getting ready. This seemed important, and they wanted to look good for each other. John and I went along as willing participants, but much more casually. It was nice and warm on Saturday, the biggest night of the festival. One of Mika's favorites, an iconic dance pop diva, was headlining, and a big crowd was expected. There was a small group of protesters outside the festival gates, holding signs with typically hateful words about going against God, etc. We were able to shrug them off as two couples going in, but John had to remind Minka that it wasn't worth taking them on. She had very strong feelings about intolerance. Once inside, she took Elaine by the hand while John and I followed behind as we would much of the night. Mika wanted to see everything, and there wasn't a single table or kiosk we didn't check out. Every progressive cause imaginable was representative, and we collected lots of buttons and stickers and bracelets. This was really fun, and along the way, we met some very interesting people. Open minded, diverse, and outrageously flamboyant were apt descriptions. The always friendly and outspoken Mika loved introducing Elaine as her girlfriend, even after people had just met her husband. So, is she your other significant other? Someone asked with a sly grin. And if so, which one's more significant? This left her momentarily speechless, so no small feat for Mika. She looked back at John, then smiled and turned to Elaine. She obviously decided to have fun with this. Hmm, you mean tonight? She replied teasingly. Well, I think I'll start with this one, but these other two just might make significant contributions. Then she pulled Elaine into a tight embrace. I'm ready to dance. How about it? Mika asked her. Yeah, that sounds good, Elaine replied. We made our way toward the main stage where John and I were perfectly content to sit this out and found an open picnic table on the side. This would be our base for the show, although it wouldn't do for our wives. Mika wanted to be close and pulled Elaine with her through the crowd. We didn't see them for a while, but they knew where to find us. John and I actually cringed during some of the music, a repetitive techno disco mix, but the crowd loved it. It was unquestionably a fun audience to observe. Campy, uninhibited, and singing along with every word. Open displays of affection were also encouraged from the stage, and this big group responded. Give that a special someone some love, was the chorus, and we felt a little out of place for the first time that night. Not entirely, but mostly same-sex couples all around us were kissing and holding each other. John looked at me and smiled. We both instinctively just leaned over and put an arm on the other's shoulder. We weren't about to start making out like the two guys a few feet away. We had no doubt that that's what our wives were doing somewhere in the mass of humanity in front of the stage. Mika and Elaine's attraction was obviously strong, and though we got real close during some of our nights together, John and I never felt the urge to take it farther. Sometimes, however, Mika would attempt to push us closer. She liked to hold each of our cocks, teasing them both with her tongue and purposely rubbing them together. Mika would attempt to push us closer. Well, when Mika or Elaine used her tongue in each way, we didn't argue. That's about as far as we ever went, but we definitely become very close friends. Before the main set ended, Mika and Elaine emerged from the crowd and came back over to the table. They were both laughing loudly, and we noticed something a little different about them. John and I looked at each other and started laughing to ourselves. We got glitter bombed! Yes. Mika happily announced, raising her arms in the air. Oh, shit, Mika, we're covered with it, Elaine added. Neither could stop laughing as they helped the other shake it from their hair. For now, they'd had enough dancing in the pit, but were still having a great time. Oops, sorry, I dropped it. I'm trying to find that just right spot to get everything. My apologies. For now, they had enough dancing in the pit, but were still having a great time and had no intention of calling it a night. We'd yet to check out the great selection of foods, so that was next on the agenda. I love glitter, y'all. I love it. I am all about the bling. Speaking of which, I have to show you my light before I end tonight. So remind me, girls, to show the light. My mini chandelier. As was typical for us, we each wanted something different and ended up sharing. That night, we dined by the moonlight just a few yards from Lake Michigan. In addition to all the swag we'd accumulated, Mika wanted a special memento of this evening, and we stopped at a photo booth. First, all four of us went in for some fun group shots, most of which turned out nice. For her officially Pride Fest photo, though, Mika wanted it to be just Elaine and her, which seemed appropriate. They took a beautiful picture together, cheek to cheek and smiling, all the glitter actually adding a nice touch. Okay, it's your turn now, Mika told John and me when they came out of the booth. Seriously? John asked. Yes, get your ass in there, she said, and it better be a good one. We looked at each other and shrugged. Okay, we could do this. So, in the spirit of the festival, we struck the same pose as our wives. We felt a little ridiculous, but did get a decent photo. This lakefront setting was also ideal for fireworks. Shot from a barge in the harbor, at least one night at each of the festivals featured an awesome pyrotechnic display. We found a nice spot not far from the shore to sit and enjoy the night's big finale. The real fireworks, however, would start on the short drive home. Mika and Elaine wasted no time kissing and making out right away in the back seat. They moaned softly while rubbing each other through their shorts. Obviously desiring some quality time together, they hurried straight up to the bedroom. By the time John and I got there, both were naked, with Mika already down between Elaine's legs. While thoroughly enjoying her pussy, she massaged one of Elaine's large breasts with one hand and kept the other busy rubbing her own clit. Elaine closed her eyes and moaned softly, totally loving this. But she soon hungered for a taste of Mika and quite easily coaxed her into their favorite position. Mika crawled up, turned around, and slowly lowered herself to Elaine's waiting tongue. She sighed and moaned pleasurably at the first touch before dropping down to resume licking Elaine. Now completely consumed with desire, neither would surrender from this hot 69 before satisfying the other. I took off my clothes and lay down next to them, using my hands on each. I didn't know if they even noticed me or John, who was on the other side. Mika eased one of her fingers into Elaine's wetness before using her tongue again to tease her clit. Elaine responded by licking Mika harder, both of them moaning louder as their bodies rubbed against one another. I used one of my hands to feel Elaine's breast, working her nipple hard between my fingers, and placed the other on Mika's ass. Any assistance John and I provided was just icing on the cake. Both women were soon at the point of no return. Oh, fuck! Elaine cried out, overtaken with pleasure. I could feel her shaking. She began using her fingers too and really went after Mika's clit with her tongue, more determined than ever to coax a tasty climax from her. Elaine got her wish in a big way. Mika's little body tensed up before she momentarily stopped licking and screamed out in ecstasy. They each moaned ravenously as their tongues drove the other wild. Mika slowly removed her fingers from inside Elaine and offered it to John. She carefully rode off toward him, and they shared a little more of Elaine via a wet kiss. Meanwhile, Elaine turned and pulled me into a hot kiss of our own, the sweet taste of Mika all over her lips and tongue. She felt for my cock, happy to find it rock hard. "Oh, you're ready for me, aren't you?" she whispered. I never seemed to need much assistance after watching the two of them together. She stroked it for a second, then pushed me onto my back and climbed on top. Elaine rubbed my cock all around her still throbbing clit before guiding me inside. We started slow, but it felt so good that the pace just picked up naturally. I held her ass with both hands and pulled tighter, grinding hard against her clit. When I began using a finger to poke around her ass, she didn't object. She was already well lubed, and I eased it in slowly. Elaine loved this and kissed me harder, sucking my tongue while fucking me with every ounce of sexual energy she had. It was definitely enough to make me come first. Well, by a second or two, we enjoyed a wet, sloppy kiss all the way through before she collapsed on top of me. Having been momentarily lost in our own pleasurable world, I held Elaine in the spoon position and we watched Mika and John continue on toward their own happy ending. Mika was also on top and showing her dominant side, holding John's hands above his head while she fucked him. Perhaps sensing he was ready to come, Mika released his hands and sat up. She turned around, now with her back to him, and guided his cock back inside. I watched in the mirror over the bed as she arched her back and stretched. Then she leaned all the way back until she was on top of him, displaying her flexibility. He reached around with his hand and began rubbing her clit while she closed her eyes and moaned. She picked up the pace, fucking him harder while his hand responded in kind. Mika let out little gasp, usually a prelude to a big climax. She put her hand on top of John's, urging him to rub harder. Elaine watched contently at first, but couldn't resist the urge to help Mika come once more. She crawled over and began playing with her nipples, pulling and teasing them. Seconds later, John erupted inside her, and the added attention from Elaine pushed Mika right over the edge, too. Her sexy moans filled the room as she enjoyed another nice climax. John reached around and hugged her for a few minutes before she rolled off him. She gave him a nice kiss, then crawled over and planted one on me. Finally, she settled on her side, facing Elaine. They kissed before lying there and quietly smiling at each other. It had been quite an evening, and Mika was really happy. Thank you all for going to the Pride Fest with me. It was fun, don't you think? She asked us. I had a blast, Elaine told her. I think we could do that every year. She turned back toward me and gently slapped my side. What about you guys? Did you like it? Yeah, it was great, I answered, rolling to my back and looking up at all of us in the mirror. But we're probably going to glow in the dark with all this glitter. I laughed. Oh, shit, Mika said. She looked up into the mirror to get the broad view and just laughed when she realized how much there was. She'd be finding glittery remnants of this fun night for quite some time. The back seat of John's Lexus would need a good vacuuming, too. I told you guys. Chapter 2. That was only chapter 1. We got chapter 2 to go through now. A couple of weeks passed, and Elaine still hadn't decided what she wanted our group to do. She was determined to blow us all away and was not open to suggestions. This was her thing. I had trouble finding an organized drum circle in town, so I widened my search, ultimately finding a regular Friday night jam in a park on the north side of Chicago. North side of Chicago. Nina, Fancy, I better hear some moans all the way through there. I want each of you to get off before I'm done reading. You hear me? Yeah, I know you got your toys, sister. You better be using them. I didn't use mine today. I can't do that and read at the same time anyway. I had trouble finding an organized drum circle in town, so I widened my search, ultimately finding a regular Friday night jam in a park on the north side of Chicago. The logistics weren't ideal, but we were all able to schedule a Friday night in mid-July to do it. Before that, though, we'd go sailing on Lake Michigan. John set everything up with the owner of the boat and told us he and Mika went out with him. He told us he and Mika went out with him to get familiar with it. They had plenty of experience, but it had been a while. Sailing on Lake Michigan wasn't quite the same as the Pacific Ocean, but there were still challenges, and they wanted our trip to be a safe one. Mika called and told us the boat had deluxe accommodations and wanted to make it an overnight adventure. Overnight adventure, that's my thing. Elaine wasn't crazy about this idea until John explained that the overnight part would be at a nice marina, not out on the open water. Of course, the most important variable in this would be the weather. We scheduled it for the last weekend in June, crossed our fingers, and hoped for the best. It was sunny early Saturday morning when we drove to the east side, grabbing some breakfast on the way. John and Mika wanted to spend as much time on the boat as possible and were ready to go. The marina wasn't far, and we were there by 7 a.m., a ridiculously early hour for us any other Saturday. Psst, the three of us are always up. Even so, most of the boats were already out, and the parking lot was nearly full. Mika and Elaine led Elaine down to the dock while John and I stopped at the office to let someone know we were going out. John had this whole excursion planned beautifully. We were sailing north, away from the cities, and would spend the night in the harbor at Port Washington, about 25 miles up the lake. That gave us all day to play around on the water. Holy shit, I said when getting my first look at this boat. John, what does your friend do? He smiled at me. You see that gray building over there? He asked, pointing toward the downtown skyline. I was familiar with it and nodded. He's the CEO. And he trusts you with this boat? I kidded him. I helped him buy this little beauty, he replied with a laugh. We'd talk about sailing all the time, and I must have convinced him I knew what I was doing. Anyway, here we are. Plus, he told me it's fully insured. Yeah, that makes me feel better, I said. Just then, the two women popped up from the cabin below. Joe, you have to come down here and see how nice this is, Elaine told me. John looked at Mika and said, Honey, I think Joe's already questioning our sailing abilities. Mika glared at me from the corner of her eyes. Hey, not true. I trust you with my life, Captain, I said. Then I grabbed Elaine. And the life of my wife. And your wife, I added, pulling Mika to us. Everyone was laughing now, but I really had no doubts about John and Mika's nautical skills. Elaine was still a bit nervous. After a quick tour, I realized this was a small yacht and easily the nicest watercraft I'd ever boarded. It was 32 feet long and had an inboard engine as well as sails. The lower cabin featured leather furniture with beautiful handcrafted wood, and was pure luxury. Fully loaded with amenities like a nice bathroom and a galley for cooking. It even had a little theater-like HD TV system with surround sound. The sleeping quarters looked extremely comfortable and inviting, something to anticipate as the day passed. Before we left the marina, John went over a few basic safety things with us, and by 7:30, we were sailing straight out into Lake Michigan. A beautiful morning. There were hundreds of boats out on the lake. John took us about a half a mile out before our real adventure began. He and Mika obviously knew what they were doing with the cells, and a few minutes later, we were on our way. Basically clueless, Elaine and I happily helped out as deckhands. The downtown skyline gradually disappeared from view, and soon we looked over toward the big mansions on Lakeshore Drive. It turned into an absolutely gorgeous day, and it was easy to see why John loved this so much. With his baseball cap, sunglasses, and ever present smile, he was totally in his element. Mika was enjoying this too. She went to the front of the boat and recreated the famous pose from Titanic. Woo! She screamed, joyful at the top of her lungs. She pulled her cap off and let her long hair free in the wind. Elaine and I were just happy to be there, and it was hard to think of a better way to spend the weekend. We waved to every boat we came across and saw two huge cargo ships off in the distance. The winds were relatively light, but more than enough to keep us moving. John took advantage whenever it picked up, and we found ourselves sailing further away from the shore. Elaine was also there to remind him of her desire to see land. He reassured her with a GPS and a map that showed our exact location, but that didn't really make her feel better. By late morning, we sailed in a little closer and found a nice spot to drop anchor and have lunch. We brought swimwear, but weren't sure if we'd actually go in, letting the weather dictate that. It was well into the 80s, but no one was too eager to test the water temperature. After lunch, Mika and Elaine changed into their swimsuits, put on some sunscreen, and then decided to sit and meditate. It was a nice setting, but it got hot pretty quickly on the deck. "Who's ready to go in with me?" I asked, pulling off my shirt. "I'm ready," Mika said as she stood up. "You know that water's freezing, right?" Elaine asked playfully. Mika just smiled and walked over by me. We looked at each other, daring the other to go first before jumping at the same time. Exhilarating, that's one word for it, but Mika summed it up best. "God, it's freezing!" she screamed, already shivering. "Ah, quite refreshing," I added. Who was I kidding? I don't care what the weathermen say. This Great Lake could never be called warm. Today, it was as cold as I ever remembered. "Are you two coming in, or are you going to wimp out?" I yelled to our spouses. "Come on, you've just got to go for it. You've just got to for it. You've just got to go for it," Mika told them. Elaine smiled at John but didn't move. He shrugged before pulling off his shirt and taking her by the hand. She couldn't refuse now, and the two of them lined up together just as we had. Elaine screamed loudly as she jumped, and even louder when she came up from the water. She shivered, laughed, and swam toward Mika. "Oh, yeah!" John yelled out and went into a back float. We didn't stay in very long, nor did we complain about being hot the rest of the afternoon. We did some sunbathing and relaxed for a little while before setting the sail again. The skies got cloudier as the afternoon passed, but a steady breeze kept us on course. We came across more boats as we neared Port Washington, the next harbor north. There was plenty of daylight left, and John wanted to stay out as long as we could. It was hunger more than anything that ultimately brought us in. John really had thought of everything. In addition to a slip at the marina, he had also reserved a table for us at a great restaurant. We changed into our most appropriate dinner attire and walked a few blocks to the quaint little center of this old fishing village. The restaurant was packed, and we were grateful to have a reservation. It was just after 7 when we were led to a cozy booth in the corner. A friendly waitress suggested the specials, and here the catch of the day was exactly that. We all took the bait and enjoyed some fabulous fresh lake trout. Yum! John and I sampled microbrews while Mika and Elaine shared a bottle of white wine. It was all outstanding, and we enjoyed every bit of it, especially the locally produced libations. We had more than one toast to John's idea and a great day, first day of sailing. When we stepped back outside, we were greeted rudely by a surprise summer thunderstorm. It started to rain just as we began walking and quickly turned into a downpour. Instinctively, we ran, but with blocks ahead of us, it was useless. We could only laugh as the rain completely soaked us. Oh well, at least it was warm. Back at the boat, we hurried in, then faced the problem of what to do with our wet clothes. Elaine and I packed more than we thought we'd need, and we're happy about that now. Mika and John had some extras with them too, so we wouldn't have to walk around in our swimsuits or naked, not that we'd mind. Actually, this night didn't quite turn out the way any of us would have guessed. After changing and rigging a makeshift clothesline, we tried playing a trivia game but quickly realized we were pooped. Getting up at 5:30 and spending a full day on the water did us in. I was the first to nod off, and it was a rare night indeed, for all four of us were just too tired to have sex. Sunday morning came even earlier than the day before, and the marina was bustling with activity by around 5. Many fishing charters called this harbor home, and they went out at the crack of dawn. John and I were the first to go up topside and see the sunrise. We were also ready to take advantage of the amenities at this marina, the first being a shower. When we returned, Mika and Elaine were practicing yoga on the deck and looked quite happy. It was hard not to notice some young men nearby thoroughly checking them out. I couldn't blame them. Both looked so beautiful and peaceful while they did yoga, but it was probably more about some of the poses Mika could hold for long periods. She was a master at this, and I was always amazed. The marina also had a little cafe where we had breakfast before heading out for the day. Today's pace would be much slower as we made our way back to the city. John decided to find out how much sailing knowledge Elaine and I were absorbed in one day's experience. Once we were well past the breakers, he put me in charge. Always there if needed, he and Mika let us raise the sails and set our course. Only once did the wind get the better of me and cause us to lean heavily to one side. I really enjoyed this and wondered why this weekend was the first time in my life that I'd been aboard a boat on this lake. I had just never given it much thought, but now I was grateful for the Elaine's ideal that we each pick something to do. This took us way out of our comfort zone. It was sunny but cooler, and no one would be swimming today. We anchored again for lunch, then decided to relax for a while. I stretched out in the sun, pulled my cap down, and enjoyed the sounds again. I listened to the water, wind, birds, quiet, and then dozed off for a few minutes. Once more, I really didn't know. Or more, I really didn't know. What I do know is when I lifted my cap, John was apparently napping himself, and our wives were nowhere in sight. I sat up and momentarily imagined them falling overboard. No, they were fine. Seconds later, Mika and Elaine emerged from below, both smiling and giggling. They also appeared to be putting themselves back together. I just smiled. John was still silent while Mika hovered over him. Hey, Captain, she yelled out. Time to bring us home. He was genuinely startled as she playfully pulled his cap off and slapped him with it. Okay, he said as he got up. Then he looked at Mika and Elaine. Did I miss something? He asked with a smile. The two women stared at each other before raising their eyebrows at the same time. They tried but couldn't help breaking out laughing. I think we both missed something, I told him. What? You slept through it too? Yeah, I guess so. Must have been a quickie. I looked at Mika, who just shook her head. I don't know what you guys are talking about, she said, giving Elaine a little wink. We would just have to imagine, and that came easy. John took the helm for the rest of the voyage. Elaine was even okay with when he took us out much farther than yesterday before bringing us home. We were both loving this new experience, a nice reminder to be grateful for every moment. Our friends seemed to be renewed at being able to once again do something they loved. I was hoping we could do it again sometime. Other couples we got to get Other couples we knew got together and went out to dinner, a movie, or bowling. We did some of those things, but our favorite group activity was a bit more personal. The intimacy we shared was surely the heart of our relationship, and for us, it was a healthy and even spiritual experience. The four of us had the four of us had a special connection, and that couldn't be explained or denied, and it only made our marriages stronger. We got together the following Friday night to take care of our sexual desires. Neither Elaine nor Mika ever admitted something happened that Sunday on the boat. If they felt guilty, it didn't show, but each took a dominant approach. Elaine with John and Mika on me. We started in the family room where Elaine undressed John and orally ravished him. Mika began massaging my back while we just watched them at first. Elaine used her mouth and tongue all over him, licking his earlobes, neck, and nipples as she worked her way down. John looked right at Mika as she removed my shirt and began using her bright red nails to scratch and tease me. He moaned pleasurably when Elaine took his cock deep into her mouth. Still watching, Mika leaned down and whispered, I love how she uses her mouth, don't you? Then she began licking my ear, driving me absolutely crazy. Elaine couldn't have heard this, but provided Mika with more viewing enjoyment anyway. She glanced over and noticed us watching, so got a little more aggressive, stroking and licking his hard cock like a popsicle. Of course, Elaine loved an appreciative audience, and this only inspired Mika. First, she removed her clothes, then helped Elaine out with hers without too much contact between them. They would wait. Their immediate mission seemed to be pleasing the other's husband. While Mika knelt in front of me and began matching Elaine's every move, I had to believe this twin oral seduction was planned. Mika eagerly licked and sucked me until I was close. I'm gonna come if you keep going, I told her. She gave me a seductive lick and sucked me harder until I just erupted. Oh, fuck. I groaned pleasurably. Mika didn't let up while this massive climax engulfed my entire body. It seemed she swallowed most of it before finally releasing my cock. A little dripped from her lips when she smiled at me and turned to watch Elaine finish off John. They were close. Elaine was moaning in a sexy, encouraging manner while she sucked his cock. John was breathing harder and pushing himself into her as much as she'd allow. Mika crawled over and got close enough to help, but was perfectly happy as a spectator. She looked up at John and urged him on. Oh, yeah. Now, here he comes, he cried out between short gasps. Oh, he groaned in ecstasy. Elaine took the initial blast in her mouth, but quickly released his cock and stroked it hard. His cum dripped off her tongue while another thick stream landed between her big breasts. She smiled and licked him from his lips, then squeezed until he was limp. Elaine looked down at herself with her sticky hand. Geez, John, been saving up? She asked with a giggle. He just sighed, still breathing hard. Nice job, honey. Wow, Nika told Elaine as they stood up together. Not bad yourself, Elaine answered, glancing over at me with a wink. I need to, she said, looking down at her breast again. Mika looked over at us and asked, Are you guys happy now? We'll be right back. The two women walked together toward the downstairs bathroom. John was still catching his breath. "What the fuck was that?" he asked, adding a little laugh. "I couldn't tell you," I answered with an exaggerated shrug. "Maybe we need to go sailing more often?" Whatever the reason, neither of us would complain. "Okay, our turn now," Mika announced, and when they walked back in, still naked, she went to the end table and pulled her double-ended dildo. "Get ready, Nina." "Whew, baby. Here we go, girlfriend." She went to the end table and pulled her double-ended dildo from the drawer. "And I get you first, Elaine." "Oh, if you insist," Elaine answered as she positioned herself on the couch alluringly. Mika crawled up and kissed her briefly, but each knew exactly where this was headed. Down she went as Elaine pulled her legs open, exposing her swollen clit and wet, inviting lips. So good," Mika moaned between licks. Elaine closed her eyes, crossed her arms, and began pinching her nipples. She whimpered and softly moaned as Mika expertly teased her hot pussy and clit with her tongue. Reaching for the dildo, she rubbed the tip through and around Elaine's wetness. Elaine gasped when Mika slowly eased it inside, then began sliding it in and out. She held the other end tightly and started fucking her faster while her tongue did wonderful things to Elaine's clit. "Oh, fuck!" Elaine cried out as Mika went harder with both the dildo and her mouth. She kept sucking Elaine's throbbing clit until she climaxed explosively. Elaine squirmed and thrashed about on the couch while Mika seemed to enjoy it nearly as much. She pulled out the dildo and replaced it with her tongue, moaning her approval as she lapped up Elaine's cum. As soon as Mika would allow, Elaine popped up to begin returning the pleasure. She took the dildo from Mika and gently nudged her down on her back. Mika pulled her legs all the way up over her head while Elaine eagerly went down to complete her mission. She hungrily licked and probed Mika's pussy with her tongue before adding the dildo. Mika wanted that too. She stretched her neck to watch, licked her lips, and whispered, "Oh, fuck yeah, fuck me, honey, harder." Elaine sucked Mika's clit between her lips and pumped the dildo furiously in and out until Mika screamed, "Oh, yes!" She threw her head back and cried out blissfully. When Elaine finally pulled back, she smiled and licked some of Mika's tasty climax from her lips. The two kissed deeply for a minute before Elaine laid her head on Mika's breast and they held each other. That was nice," Elaine sighed. "Delightful," Mika agreed, kissing the top of Elaine's head. They eventually separated and the four of us got dressed. Although most of our tryst ended with sleepovers, that night wouldn't. Before we went home, plans were made for our trip to Chicago a week later. John commuted there often and suggested we take the train. Having been stuck in traffic too many times, this made perfect sense. We quickly finalized things, but one question still remained. "So, Elaine, how long are we going to have to wait? You must have something by now," Mika asked. "I have something in mind," she answered coolly. "I'll have an official announcement as soon as the details are ironed out." Mika gave me an inquisitive stare. I just shrugged. Whatever Elaine was planning, it remained a mystery to me. And that's all I'm reading. That was chapters 1 and 2. So go get book 1, 99 cents. The rest are on KU. So no excuses, girls and boys. If there's any boys left in here besides Mr. Silver. Thank you for letting me read that. That was so cute. And I will be finishing that before the week's out, I'm pretty sure, just so I can get my little Halloween fix. But Thank you. I don't do, even though I'm female, very much so, born and raised female, I don't do female voices very well. I can do I do girly voices, not regular female voices, but I do some really girly personality voices better. But my male voices I'm known for. I do those quite well. Nina, I told you to do that while I was reading. You were supposed to be hollering my name. That's a spanking for you, sister. And let's see, what else am I missing? I'm going to come back up here and read some of these. I did not ever go, I didn't go swimming. I just looked out, went to sleep. I was so tired from driving, I was just passed out. Yeah, it is. You charged your toys. Charged mine another night too. You are more than welcome. Thank you for letting me read it. I appreciate it. Yes. And Miss Silver, I'm glad you enjoyed that. Tomorrow night, we got another hot one tomorrow night, girls. We got Miss Carly going to be in the house. Yes. Did I lose Jackie? Because Jackie loves Carly, so. Oh, I'm sure it does get hotter. See, I don't want to do all the hottest scenes, especially with these two. These two just get, they get cray cray. But yeah, this looks pretty good, and then I can't wait for the hotter. I'm gonna go save the hotter for me when I go to bed and I get my toys out. So, all righty, tomorrow night, Carly. So let's get it going. Let's get ready. All righty. Anything else I'm missing, girls? If not, everybody have a great evening. Be safe. I am in the path of Zeta, and but he, whatever is supposed to hit between 3 and 10 in the morning. So tomorrow morning it'll be rain. So I should be good to go unless it just does a lot of damage and we're out of power tomorrow night or internet. I should be good to go tomorrow night, but if not, I will reschedule and maybe do it Friday night. So no big deal. We got this. Just watch my watch for postings from Nina or Vincy, because of course I'm in Facebook jail as usual. That's, I have my own room there, the whole 9 yards. But just watch for postings, and I'll let one of them know if I'm not going to be able to read tomorrow night. So it'll probably be a last minute thing. So watch around 8 o'clock. All righty, everybody. Have a good evening and go play. Happy reading.